Have you ever noticed how sometimes things start leaving your life all at once? People walk away, opportunities close, plans fall apart, and in those moments, it feels confusing, even painful. You start asking yourself questions like, why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? Why is everything changing? But what if the very things leaving your life are not losses, but divine removals? What if God is not punishing you, but preparing you? Sometimes we pray for purpose, we pray for growth, we pray for blessings, but we forget that before God brings the blessing, He often clears the path. And clearing the path means removing distractions. Because the truth is, you cannot walk into the future God prepared for you while holding on to everything from your past. There are moments when God will start closing doors you thought would stay open forever. Not because He wants to hurt you, but because He knows where that door leads. And sometimes the place you're trying so hard to stay in is the very place that would have kept you stuck. Think about it. Some relationships feel good, but they slow your growth. Some habits feel comfortable, but they weaken your purpose. Some environments feel familiar, but they limit your potential. And God sees what you cannot see. He sees how certain distractions are quietly stealing your focus, draining your energy, and pulling you away from the life He designed for you. So when God begins to remove something, it doesn't always feel like protection. It often feels like loss. It feels like silence. It feels like confusion. But just because you don't understand the process doesn't mean God isn't working in the background. You see, distractions are dangerous because they don't always look wrong. They just look harmless. They look normal. They look comfortable. But distractions slowly pull your attention away from what truly matters. They consume your time, your focus, and your energy until you wake up one day realizing you drifted far away from your purpose. And God loves you too much to let that happen. Sometimes the delay you're experiencing is actually protection. Sometimes the person who walked away was actually blocking your next level. Sometimes the opportunity you lost was actually preventing you from stepping into something greater. But here's the challenge. When God removes distractions, it often creates empty space in your life. And empty space can feel uncomfortable. Silence can feel lonely. Change can feel scary. Yet that space is not meant to stay empty forever. That space is where clarity begins to grow. When distractions leave, your vision becomes sharper. When noise disappears, you can finally hear God's direction more clearly. When the crowd fades away, you begin to discover who you truly are and what you were truly created to do. God is not just removing things randomly. He is refining your focus. Imagine trying to drive somewhere important while 10 different people are shouting directions at you. You wouldn't know which voice to follow. That's what distractions do to your life. They create noise that drowns out the voice of purpose. So sometimes God has to quiet the noise before He reveals the next step. And the hardest part is trusting God while the process is happening. Because when things leave your life, your mind starts telling you stories. It tells you that you're falling behind. It tells you that you're losing everything. It tells you that something is wrong with you. But faith says something different. Faith says that God is rearranging things you cannot yet see. Faith says that the removal is part of the preparation. There are seasons where God will reduce the crowd around you so He can increase the clarity within you. Because when too many voices are speaking into your life, it becomes difficult to hear the one voice that truly matters. And sometimes God will remove the very things you thought you needed, just to show you that you never needed them in the first place. Maybe right now you feel like things are shifting around you. Maybe certain people are fading out of your life. Maybe plans you expected to work are suddenly falling apart. Maybe you feel like you're standing in a place of uncertainty. But what if this moment is not the end of something? What if it's the beginning of alignment? Because when God removes distractions, He is not taking away your future. He is protecting it. He's removing the voices that confuse you. He's removing the habits that weaken you. He's removing the environments that limit you. Not to make your life smaller, but to make your purpose clearer. And one day you'll look back at the things you once cried about losing, and you'll realize they were the very things that were standing between you and the life God had prepared for you. So instead of fearing the removal, start trusting the process. Because when God clears the path, it's usually because something greater is on the way. And when distractions disappear, your destiny finally has room to arrive. Sometimes in life we become so used to certain people, habits, and situations that we assume they will always remain part of our journey. We grow comfortable with what is familiar, even when that familiarity quietly slows down our growth. The truth is, not everything that enters your life is meant to stay there forever. Some things arrive only for a season, only to teach you a lesson, shape your character, or prepare you for the next level. But when that season ends, God often begins the process of removing what no longer belongs in your future. This is the part that can feel confusing. When something leaves your life, it rarely feels like a blessing at first. It feels like loss. It feels like rejection. It feels like something valuable has been taken away. You may find yourself questioning what went wrong or wondering why things didn't work out the way you expected. But what you cannot see in that moment is that God is working behind the scenes, clearing away the very things that could block the path of your purpose. Purpose requires space to grow. It requires focus, clarity, and direction. When your life is filled with distractions, your energy becomes divided. Your attention becomes scattered between things that matter and things that simply take up space. Over time, those distractions begin to slow your progress. They keep you busy, but they don't move you forward. God understands the weight of those hidden obstacles even when you do not. That is why sometimes He removes things from your life that you were trying to hold on to. Not because He wants to hurt you, but because He knows where you are meant to go. If certain people stayed, they might influence you in ways that pull you away from your calling. If certain habits continued, they might weaken your discipline and delay your growth. If certain environments remained, they might limit the potential that God placed inside you. So God begins to close doors that you once thought were permanent. He allows certain connections to fade. He shifts situations that once felt stable. From your perspective it may look like everything is falling apart, but from God's perspective things are finally being aligned. It takes faith to understand that removal is sometimes a form of protection. The path toward your purpose cannot remain crowded with everything from your past. In order for something greater to enter your life, certain things must move out of the way. The difficult truth is that we often try to carry things into our future that were only meant for our past. God sees the full picture of your life. He knows where every path leads. While you may only see the present moment, He sees the long-term impact of every decision, every relationship, and every environment surrounding you. That is why He sometimes removes something even when you are praying for it to stay. Later, when time passes and your journey unfolds, you begin to see what God was protecting you from. You begin to understand that the things leaving your life were not taking away your future, they were making room for it. One of the most difficult things about distractions is that they rarely appear dangerous at the beginning. If something obviously threatened your future, you would avoid it immediately. But distractions do not arrive looking harmful. They usually appear normal, comfortable, and even enjoyable. That is why they are so powerful. They slowly blend into your daily routine until you no longer recognize how much of your attention they are consuming. Many distractions begin as small things. A habit that seems harmless. A relationship that feels easy. A routine that fills your time but does not strengthen your purpose. None of these things look destructive on the surface, yet over time they quietly pull your focus away from what truly matters. They steal small portions of your time and energy every day, and eventually those small portions add up to something much bigger. You may still feel busy and productive while distractions are present in your life. Your schedule might be full, your days might feel active, and your mind might be constantly occupied. But being busy does not always mean you are moving forward. Distractions create the illusion of progress while slowly keeping you stuck in the same place. This is why distractions can be so dangerous. They do not destroy your purpose all at once. Instead, they slowly redirect your attention until your priorities become unclear. When your focus is scattered between too many things, it becomes difficult to invest deeply in the things that actually matter. Your energy becomes divided, and divided energy weakens your progress. God understands the power of focus. He knows that your purpose requires clarity and direction. When too many distractions surround you, it becomes harder to hear His guidance and harder to recognize the opportunities that truly align with your future. That is why there are moments when God begins to intervene in ways you may not immediately understand. Sometimes He removes the very things you thought were harmless. Certain routines suddenly stop working. Certain relationships slowly fade away. Situations that once filled your time begin to change. At first it may feel confusing because you never saw those things as a problem. They felt normal. They felt safe. But over time you begin to notice something powerful happening. As those distractions disappear, your mind becomes clearer. You begin to think more deeply about your direction and your goals. The time and energy that were once scattered now become available for something more meaningful. When distractions are removed, your vision begins to sharpen. You start recognizing what truly deserves your attention and what never really mattered in the first place. Your priorities become stronger because they are no longer competing with constant noise. God does not remove distractions to limit your life. He removes them to restore your focus. When your focus becomes clear, your actions become intentional. When your actions become intentional, your growth becomes unstoppable. What once felt like an unexpected loss becomes the very thing that helped you rediscover your true direction. There are moments in life when something leaves and it feels like everything has gone wrong. A relationship ends unexpectedly. An opportunity you were counting on suddenly disappears. A plan you worked hard to build begins to fall apart. In those moments, it is natural to feel disappointment, confusion, and even pain. You may start asking yourself difficult questions, wondering why things did not work out the way you hoped they would. But sometimes what feels like loss is not actually a loss at all. Sometimes it is protection. The challenge is that protection does not always look the way we expect it to. We often imagine protection as open doors, clear paths, and smooth opportunities. We expect that if something is meant for us, it will stay in our lives without difficulty. But that is not always how God works. There are times when protection looks like a closed door, a broken plan, or a relationship that fades away. God sees the future in a way that we cannot. While we are focused on the present moment and the immediate benefits of something, God sees the long-term impact it could have on our lives. He understands where certain paths will eventually lead. A situation that looks promising right now might carry hidden problems that would harm your growth later. Because of this, there are moments when God intervenes before you step too far down the wrong path. Instead of allowing you to continue, He blocks the direction you were trying to move in. At the time, it may feel frustrating and unfair. You might believe you were ready for that opportunity or that relationship. You might feel like something important has been taken away from you. But what you cannot see in that moment is what God prevented from happening. Sometimes the opportunity you lost would have drained your energy and distracted you from your real calling. Sometimes the relationship that ended would have limited your growth and influenced your decisions in ways that pulled you away from your purpose. Sometimes the plan that collapsed would have led you into a situation that created more struggle than success. God's protection often works quietly and ahead of time. He removes things before their consequences fully appear. The difficulty is that we usually recognize the protection only after time has passed. Faith requires trusting that even when something leaves your life, God is still guiding your journey. It means believing that closed doors can still be part of a greater plan. Just because something ended does not mean your future became smaller. In many cases, it means your future has been redirected towards something better. As time moves forward, perspective begins to change. Situations that once felt painful start to make sense. You begin to notice how different your life would look if those things had remained. You begin to understand how certain losses actually prevented deeper struggles. One day you may look back at a moment that once felt like a setback and realize it was actually a turning point. What felt like something being taken away was actually something being removed for your protection, guiding you toward a path that aligns more closely with the life you were meant to live. When God begins to remove distractions from your life, one of the first things you may notice is the space that suddenly appears. Things that once filled your time, your attention, and your emotions are no longer there in the same way. The schedule that used to feel crowded becomes quieter. The conversations that once occupied your mind begin to fade. At first, that empty space can feel uncomfortable. Many people are not used to silence in their lives. We grow accustomed to constant noise, messages, conversations, responsibilities, opinions, and expectations from others. When life is always busy, it gives us the feeling that we are moving forward. But constant activity can also hide deeper questions about direction and purpose. When distractions disappear, those questions finally begin to surface. That is why the empty space can feel strange at the beginning. It may even feel lonely or uncertain. Without the familiar routines and distractions, you may find yourself wondering what comes next. Yet that space is not a mistake. It is intentional. God often creates that space so something deeper can begin to grow. Clarity rarely develops in a crowded environment. When your mind is constantly filled with noise and pressure, it becomes difficult to think clearly about your life. You react to situations instead of reflecting on them. You move from one task to another without asking whether those tasks are actually leading you in the right direction. When distractions are removed, your mind finally has the room to slow down. In that quieter space, you begin to reflect on what truly matters. You start noticing the difference between what once felt urgent and what is actually important. Things that once seemed necessary may begin to lose their significance. This is where clarity begins to grow. With fewer distractions competing for your attention, you start to understand yourself more honestly. You recognize the goals that truly inspire you and the habits that were holding you back. Your values become clearer because they are no longer buried beneath constant noise. The empty space also creates room for guidance. When your life is filled with too many voices, it becomes difficult to hear the direction God is trying to give you. Opinions from others can become louder than the quiet wisdom that leads you toward your purpose. But when distractions are removed, those competing voices begin to fade. In the quiet moments, new understanding begins to form. Ideas appear that were once hidden beneath the busyness of daily life. Your direction begins to feel stronger because it is no longer pulled in too many directions at once. The space that once felt uncomfortable slowly becomes peaceful. Instead of feeling empty, it begins to feel meaningful. You start to realize that the silence was not meant to isolate you but to prepare you. It gave you the opportunity to reconnect with your purpose and regain the clarity you needed. God does not create empty space in your life just to leave it empty. He creates that space so something better can grow within it, stronger focus, deeper wisdom, and a clearer path toward the future that was always meant for you. One of the most powerful forces in your life is your focus. Whatever consistently holds your attention eventually begins to shape your direction. The things you think about the most, the things you spend your time on, and the environments you allow around you all play a role in determining how your life unfolds. When your focus is clear and intentional, your progress becomes stronger. But when your focus is scattered between too many distractions, your energy becomes divided and your growth slows down. Many people struggle not because they lack potential, but because their attention is constantly pulled in different directions. They start many things but finish very few. Their days are filled with activity, yet they still feel like they are not moving forward. The problem is not always effort. Often, the problem is focus. Distractions have a way of weakening that focus. They divide your attention between things that truly matter and things that simply occupy your time. The more distractions enter your life, the more difficult it becomes to concentrate on your purpose. Your energy spreads across too many directions, and when energy is scattered, progress becomes slow and inconsistent. This is why there are moments when God begins to refine your focus by removing the things that are pulling you away from your true path. At first, this process can feel uncomfortable. Certain environments change, some relationships shift. Habits that once filled your routine begin to disappear. It may feel like your life is becoming smaller or quieter. But in reality, something powerful is happening. Your life is not becoming smaller, it is becoming clearer. When distractions are removed, your attention naturally begins to center on what truly matters. The time that was once wasted becomes available for meaningful growth. The energy that was once drained by unnecessary situations becomes available for building something lasting. Instead of constantly reacting to different pressures around you, you begin to move forward with intention. Refined focus creates momentum. When your mind is no longer divided between countless distractions, you gain the ability to invest deeply in the things that move your life forward. You start setting clearer goals, making stronger decisions, and committing your energy to the things that truly align with your purpose. This process also helps you recognize what deserves your attention and what does not. In the past, you may have felt pressured to respond to every request, every expectation, and every opportunity. But as your focus becomes stronger, you begin to understand that not everything requires your time. Some things must be left behind so that better things can grow. God refines your focus because He understands the power of clarity. A focused mind creates purposeful action. Purposeful action leads to meaningful progress. When distractions disappear, your direction becomes sharper, and the path ahead becomes easier to follow. What once felt like loss begins to reveal itself as preparation. The things that were removed were not taken away to limit your life. They were removed so your attention could return to the purpose that was always meant to guide you forward. Trusting God becomes most difficult during seasons when things are being removed from your life. When everything feels stable and predictable, faith feels easier. But when doors begin to close, relationships begin to change, and plans begin to fall apart, it can feel like the ground beneath you is shifting. In those moments, uncertainty starts to grow, and your mind begins searching for answers that are not always immediately clear. This is the season where many people begin to question what is happening in their lives. You might wonder if you made the wrong decisions. You might ask yourself whether you somehow caused the changes that are unfolding around you. When something you cared about disappears or something you expected fails to happen, the natural reaction is to assume that something has gone wrong. But the reality is that not every change is a mistake. Some changes are part of the preparation process. God often works through seasons that require you to release what once felt secure. These moments are rarely comfortable because they ask you to trust before you can fully understand. When you are standing in the middle of the process, you cannot yet see the full picture. All you can see is what has been removed, not what is being prepared. Your mind may try to convince you that the removal means you are falling behind. It may tell you that other people are moving forward while you are losing something important. These thoughts can create fear and doubt, making it even harder to trust the direction your life is taking. Faith asks you to see the situation differently. Instead of focusing only on what has disappeared, faith encourages you to believe that something meaningful is still unfolding beneath the surface. Just because you cannot see the purpose yet does not mean there is no purpose. Every transformation requires change, and change almost always involves letting go of something familiar. Growth rarely happens while everything remains exactly the same. In order for your life to move into a new season, the old season must eventually come to an end. Trusting God during this time means accepting that you do not need to have every answer right now. It means believing that the removal you are experiencing is not random or meaningless. There is a deeper reason behind it, even if that reason has not yet become visible. As time moves forward, the pieces of the journey begin to connect. Situations that once felt confusing start to make more sense. You begin to recognize how certain changes created space for new opportunities and stronger direction. What once looked like an uncertain moment begins to reveal itself as an important turning point. Trust is not built when everything is easy. It is built during the moments when you continue moving forward even though the path is not fully clear yet. Those seasons of uncertainty often become the foundation for stronger faith and deeper understanding as your journey continues to unfold. There are moments in life when it feels like things are being taken away one by one. Certain people leave your life. Certain opportunities disappear. Situations that once filled your days begin to fade. In those moments it can feel like your world is becoming smaller, as if something important is slipping away. But sometimes what feels like something being taken from you is actually something being cleared for you. Imagine trying to pour fresh water into a cup that is already completely full. No matter how much you try to add, nothing new can enter because there is simply no space for it. The same thing happens in life. When your time, energy, and attention are already filled with distractions, unhealthy habits, and situations that no longer serve your growth, there is no room for something greater to develop. God understands that your destiny needs space to grow. If your life is already crowded with things that are not aligned with your purpose, the opportunities meant for your future may never fully take root. That is why there are seasons when God begins to clear away the unnecessary. He removes certain distractions so the path ahead can open. At first, that clearing process can feel uncomfortable. When something familiar disappears, it creates a sense of emptiness. You might feel like something valuable has been lost, even if you cannot fully explain why. But that empty space is not a sign that your life is lacking. It is a sign that preparation is happening. The space being created in your life is making room for something new to arrive. When distractions are removed, your time becomes available again. The energy that was once drained by situations that held you back begins to return. Your attention becomes focused on what truly matters instead of being scattered across countless distractions. This new space gives you the ability to build something meaningful. Instead of constantly reacting to the pressures around you, you gain the freedom to move with purpose. Your decisions become clearer because you are no longer surrounded by the same noise and confusion that once filled your life. Destiny cannot grow in an environment filled with constant distraction. It needs room to breathe, room to develop, and room to take shape. When God removes what does not belong in your future, He is not trying to reduce your life. He is preparing it for expansion. Over time, the things that once felt like losses begin to reveal their deeper meaning. You start noticing how much lighter your life feels without the distractions that once drained your energy. You begin recognizing opportunities that you may never have seen before because your attention was focused elsewhere. The path ahead becomes clearer because the obstacles that once filled your vision are no longer standing in the way. What once felt like an empty space becomes the very place where new growth begins. Your destiny does not arrive in chaos and overcrowding. It arrives when the environment is ready for it. And sometimes the most powerful preparation God can do in your life is simply clearing away the distractions so that the future meant for you finally has the space to appear.